For centuries, the realm stood divided. Two magical orders, two truths carved from the same war-torn sky. The luminous, blessed by the stars, practitioners of healing, protection, and celestial gaze. They called themselves the Guardians, the ones history remembered as saviors, the ones the people prayed to when the night felt too long, and the Obscura, born of blood and shadow, wielders of decay, illusion, and forbidden sorcery. They never asked to be feared, they just were. The ones children dreamed of in nightmares, the ones whispered about behind sealed temple doors, each trained in their sacred stronghold. Aetherion, all glass and spires and sunstone. Nocteria, carved from the obsidian and silence, and for a long time that balance held, uneasy, brutal, until something older than light and darker than shadow broke through the veil. Beasts that crawled through dreams and ruin, drawn to magic like wolves to blood, and so on. The two orders did the unthinkable. They merged under one roof, one name, Velora Academy, the last sanctuary, the last gamble, where heirs of light and dark would train side by side, if not to trust, then at least to survive. And me? I was born in light. Golden walls, ivory staircases, incense burning at every threshold like it could ward off truth. The house of Thornvale was one of the oldest in the realm. My father, Lord Alaric Thornvale, held the title of Lord of Light on the High Circle, one of the most powerful men in the kingdom. Which made me, Isabella Thornvale, the daughter no one dared to criticise aloud, but everyone whispered about. She barely glows, the weakest Thornvale in 5 generations. Her mother would have. They never finished the sentence. No one talked about my mother. Not to me, not around me, not even by accident. All I had were fragments, the scent of sunlight on silk, the press of a hand against my cheek, a lullaby that always stopped before the last note. They say she died of illness, but not what kind, not when. Not why the priest who named my light affinity refused to meet my eyes. And my father, he buried her like he buried everything that made him human. The sun bled through my bedroom window in soft shafts of light, painting gold across the floor like a lie. The courtroom below swayed with pale banners. Hellflower's emblem catch me like wings. I sat at the edge of my bed, my arms wrapped around myself, the silence too full to ignore. This was the room I grew up in. This one was where my mother sang in, and the one I now live like a ghost. My fingers touched the pendant on my neck, a cracked sunstone, the only thing of hers I had left. It glinted faintly, even in shadow, useless in magic, useless in battle, just the memory I couldn't throw away. Even though I tried, gods I tried, because the truth they don't teach in the temple is that light doesn't love everyone. Sometimes it leaves you behind, and I was tired of chasing it. Then, a knock on my door. My lady, a housemaid's voice, nervous and soft. Your father has summoned me. He's in the study. Of course he was. I stood smoothing the skirt of my robes. My hand brushed the pendant at my neck. The cracked sunstone caught the light like it was still whole. Another illusion, another lie. The walk down the marble corridor was familiar and cold. This wing of the manor always felt like a mausoleum, quiet, gilded, echoing, with no ghosts, no one there to name. His study was waiting, all polished wood, thick velvet curtains, and the suffocating weight of someone else's expectations. The sunlight poured in through tall stained glass, refracting across the room in cruel golden shards. He didn't look up. Sit, Lord Thornvale said. Voice clipped. I didn't. I crossed my arms. You sent for me. Only then did he glance up from the scroll he was reading. His eyes, hard, gold, unreadable, moved to the pendant on my neck and lingered, then slid back to my face. "You report to Florida entrance trials tomorrow morning," he said. "Pack what you need, you have one day." I stared at him. "I'm sorry, what?" "The trials are mandatory. All mage blood youth are required to present themselves for evaluation." I let out a loud, sharp, ugly, "You've known for years I don't have enough power to light a spell candle, and now you want me to stand in front of the realm's finest and humiliate myself?" "You have the bloodline," he said, like that was enough. "You'll take the test." I stepped forward. "This isn't a ceremonial ritual, it's Floria. Do you even understand what happens if I fail? If they see what I really am?" He stood slowly, deliberately. "If you don't have the luxury of failing." "Oh, I see," I snapped, "because I carry a Thornfell name, because I was supposed to glow like the sunlight, but I flicker like a dying torch. Enough." His voice cracked through the room like a whip. I didn't rise. It didn't need to. "You will take the exam, that is final, and if I don't," his jaw locked, "then you will lose the shelter of my house, and I will not speak for you again." The silence followed was thick, choking. I could have screamed, could have begged, but it wouldn't matter. I knew that tone. My father never yelled. He didn't have to. He just buried you with words that sounded like law. So I nodded. Once again, ice in my veins. "Well," I said, voice brittle, "I hope you enjoyed the show." And I had turned before he could see the fear behind my anger. I packed in silence, not because there was no one to speak to, but because I didn't trust what would come out if I did. My room had never felt so wild and quiet. The shelves were cluttered with books whose spines had long gathered dust. A crooked painting of Thornfell's suncrest still hung above my desk, dimmed by light, years of light I had once glorified. The bay lay unmade, blankets twisted, pillows sunken, echoes of hours I'd spent there, staring at the ceiling, wondering why the magic in me never came, wondering why she never stayed. I folded my robes, and my numb fingers, the ivory fabric edged in gold, so bright, so false. My hands moved like they remembered what my heart had forgotten, how to pretend this was normal. But inside, something clenched, sharp and breathless, like grief wearing the mask of duty, and this was the only home I'd ever known. Stone walls, cold floors, fires that burned but didn't warm, a silence that settled over me like snowfall, soft, constant, smothering. I glanced towards the tall window. Outside the sun sank behind the manor walls, bleeding orange into the floor. It looked reluctant, like it didn't want to leave me behind. I almost ignored the wooden box on the shelf. Almost. But my eyes found it anyway. My hands followed. I opened the lid slowly. Inside, a worn red ribbon, frayed at the edges, a faded child's drawing. Me and her, stick-figured and smiling beneath a bright, scribbled sun. And tucked between its folds, the same letter I'd hidden away all those years, the ones I found buried in the back of our old journal. No salvation, no signature, just 3 words. Don't trust them. Them. The words always tasted like ash. I never knew who she meant or why she had written it, but I read it anyway, again, like it might change, like it might mean more the 100th time than it did the first. I reached up and touched the sun pendant on my neck. Cracked down the centre, but still catching the light like it refused to break. My mother's. She wore it every day, said the sun reminded her that lights wasn't always kind, and even the gentlest glow could blind. That warmth, too, could burn. I curled my fingers around it, tucked it beneath my shirt, let the metal rest cold and steady against my chest. My father hated it, said it teared me to weakness, that emotions were weapons left best unsheathed. But this was the only piece of her they couldn't take. I closed my box, slipped it into the bottom of my satchel, then turned, one last look, at the books, the ribbon, the bed where my mother used to sing me lullabies she never finished, at the place that held every answer I'd ever been given. I blew the candle. Darkness closed in, soft, familiar, like a memory that never left. Tomorrow I'd face Valora. But tonight I mourned what little light I had left. The morning wasn't crisp, it was cruel. Cold in the way that doesn't wake you. It sinks deep into your chest, into your fingers, into the soft parts that you still hope might feel different. They didn't. I stood by the carriage, one hand gripping the strap of my satchel, like it was the only thing keeping me upright. My fingers had gone stiff with the cold, or maybe with the fear I refused to name. Behind me, The Thornfield Manor stood as it always has, unmoved, unchanged, uncaring. No open windows, no light in the hall, the warmth went behind for me, about to leave everything she knew, just stood in silence. And I heard his steps, measured sharp like each one carved and wording into the earth. Lord Farnfield didn't walk so much as he commanded space to part for him. His cloak slipped beneath the stone path like a curtain drawing shut. "You're ready," he said. Not a question, a statement, a verdict. I nodded. "I am." He stood at me. No, through me. Taking in the satchel, the stiff robes, and the way I stood too still, like I was bracing for something, like I always had. His eyes dropped to the pendant. His mouth tightened. You're still wearing that necklace." His hand rolled instinctively, curling around the cracked crest as the collarbone edges were worn. Home in the place was never hers. It was hers. It's a weakness. It's mine. His steel gauge turned. "She wore it into battle. Every mage in the realm knew what it meant to her. And now you wear it like a banner. If they find out that it means to you, I know, they'll use it against me." "And you still insist on taking it?" "Yes." He stepped closer. His voice dropped to a low, sharp threat. "This isn't sentiment, Isabel. This is war. You're walking into a place where half of them will want to test you, the other half will want to break you. The necklace isn't protection, it's a target." I met his eyes, let them aim. His expression didn't change, not visibly, but for a second his eyes just were saying, "Grief, regret." No, that meant he still felt something. A muscle in his jaw. I thought just the breath he might rip the chain from my neck, but he didn't. He exhaled instead, a long control breath. "So be it. Keep your arms crossed around your neck, but don't expect it to save you." Silence stretched, dense, cold. He turned to go back, then paused at the top step. Didn't look at me when he said it. "One last thing." I didn't move. "If you fail the entrance exam," his voice was calm, steady, and sharper than anything he had said before, "don't come home." The cut was clean, final. I nodded. Just once, no words, no fury, no tears. And I climbed into the carriage. The door closed behind me like a seal on a tomb, and I didn't look.